Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. You know, after I brought on this young man to the program, a few of my MAGA listeners and my conservative listeners were very happy. They thought we had a great discussion. Of course, most of you MAGA actually said that this young man won the debate, even though it wasn't really a debate, but that's what you said. But you know what? The thing about it is we brought Bryce on. Anyway, Bryce Eddy, he's a cultural and political commentator and the host of the Bryce Eddy Show, where even controversial or taboo topics get discussed, reminiscent of the Joe Rogan experience. And this is a guy who can actually use his martial arts to beat up on Joe Rogan. But don't tell Joe I said that. Anyway, Bryce, welcome to Politics Done Right. How you doing?
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you having me. And Joe and I are friends. He's a great guy. He and I came up through the jiu-jitsu world together and love him to death. I like what you just said about debate because I'm not actually interested in debate. I take a Dennis Prager philosophy in that I would rather truly understand and get clarity from what you believe and have you, hear what I believe. Then, either one of us really win a fight because I don't think this should be about.
Let me tell you something. That is the reason I take the tact that I take. And that is I am aggressive in my beliefs. But
sure.
whenever you convince me of something, your belief becomes an integral part of my belief. And I have no dignity with regards taking it away from you and adding it to my repertoire.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Well, I think also one of the biggest things that we have going on in this country that exists on both sides is that most people don't know why they believe what they believe, right?
True.
So they've adopted some tribal position. They can't really articulate or defend it. So they end up just shouting at each other and getting pissed at each other. And that's how you can always tell that people don't really know, why they believe what they believe is because it devolves into, some kind of an emotional screed or, shouting match.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I'm very strong in my progressive beliefs. And I know you're very strong in your right-wing beliefs. I don't know if I'm going to call. I created a clickbait title for the last program that we did. I said I called you a smart MAGA. Okay. And the reason I did, that
oh, yeah, I don't
is
mind.
Well, actually it's a compliment, brother. Come on now.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you. No, appreciate it. No, it's very gracious.
But the reason why is that most of the times that I have dialogue with a lot of MAGA folks, eventually it does devolve into irrationality. And even though I disagree with a lot of your points, if not most of them that we've gotten for so far, you have a plausible answer to everything that I ask. And I have to have respect for plausibility, even if I don't agree. If you remember the way we ended our last conversation, I said, sometimes I wonder if somebody as smart as you are really believe the things that you say, to which you answered, yes. I still take exception to that, but I want to take our subject today more on healthcare and what many of your beliefs are on healthcare.
Well, I'll start out just by saying this because I want to remind the audience of this. I think, you're a genuine guy, right? And I am too. I authentically believe what I believe, and I believe you do too. We both identify probably all of the same problems, but it's the solutions and the policies and who is responsible for solving those problems that I think that's where we find disagreement. And we're probably going to agree on the premise that healthcare in the United States of America is broken.
Absolutely so. Now, but I think as we both accept that it's broken, I think one of the different, or I should ask you, I believe healthcare is a right. What about you?
No, because simply this, and this is where I think that there is a distinctly different view on the right and the left. You cannot make something, you cannot compel another person's labor. And healthcare and things like that require another person's labor. Therefore, it cannot be a right. We have in this country what's called negative rights, right? So things that are given to us by our creator and things that the government should only exist to protect. And they don't bestow upon us rights. The government cannot. It only comes from a creator. The government is serving only to protect it. If you go beyond those means, you get totalitarianism and you get mob rule. Healthcare is not a right. It's something that we as a society should have safety nets. We should take care of people. There should be charity. There should be all of those sort of things, but it should be the citizen and the individual that is largely responsible for those sort of things for themselves and for others, and not a state becoming God and bestowing upon us those things.
Now, who determines what rights are, what we define as rights, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, so here in the United States, our founding fathers didn't invent these rights. They articulated what they believed based on Judeo-Christian foundation and the Bible and all that. What those things are: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right? I have the right to. Through my liberty, right? Liberty is God's idea, not man's idea. Life is something that is sacred, something that we are to, as a society, uphold and protect, right? Pursuit of happiness is, pursuing our own way. There's an argument that is a stand-in for property, for us to self-determination, for us to own things, for us to, pursue our plot of land, to pursue our life, to carve out something for us. Because otherwise, if you just do it based on like healthcare and things like that, then food and water, should be a right. We cannot live without those things, right? So where does the idea of a human right stop if it's all about getting what we need just to exist?
Good. I'm glad that you put it in those contexts, because I think I can answer that clearly and succinctly. First of all, we define as a society, once we decide that we want to have a society, the compact with society is that we will decide what rights are, what privileges are, and all these other concepts. Whereas you say these are defined by God, if our society decides that it wants to be a theocracy, then your statement is absolutely valid as far as stating that our liberties, etc., are from God. However, if we decide that we want a societal setup that's not based on a deity of any form, we can then decide these as a member of this society, in this case, the American society, we can decide that we are going to call healthcare rights. We can decide that we can call, you mentioned an important thing. You said, if we start to declare certain rights, then things that people must have, food, shelter, clothing, could also be declared a right, for which I said, thank you, Bryce, because I agree with you. Those things should also be rights. In what form, however, should they be rights? They should be rights in the concept that progressives believe in, called basic income. And an economy is not something that is bestowed, that is divine. An economy is something that is created by society, something that we all create, something that we all run and form a part of. But we also, those of us who believe in a certain level of humanity, realize that this only function if the least among us can actually survive. So the concepts that we have is to declare certain things right, have the society support those things as rights, and then for those individualists, etc., those capitalist performers and all of that, they still coexist in this system, but in a form that still have the basic rights of people maintained. So I think the difference that you'll see between your concept and my concept is, I think we show more I don't want to use this in a pejorative manner, but we show more humanity in that and less capitalism. And I notice that I didn't say capitalism, but capitalism. In other words, we care about that which sustains more than the value of having to own property, the value of these other externalities. Continue, my friend.
Yeah, well, aside from that never working, and that does not work because of, fortunately, and this is where you and I just have a very different worldview. Okay. Mm-hmm. I believe in sin. I believe that we are born with that flaw. I believe that I believe in the God of the Bible. I believe in the idea that the state is not our God nor our supreme being. You act as if holding that view means that you don't have a God or you don't have a theocracy, but something is going to reign supreme in our culture. Some religious ideology. In your case, what you're proposing is a secular humanist form of it. And when you say, and I'll finish here.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And when you say that, well, okay, food and water and all those things should be right. But remember what I said at the beginning, all those things compel the labor of others. All right. Compelling the labor of others is not a voluntarily given charity. It's not a voluntarily given, benefit to others. And that's the very big distinction between my worldview and yours, is that Jesus was not a socialist, right?
Actually,
Jesus
he was, but we'll continue.
No,
yeah.
No, he was not. And we can debate that for sure. Jesus told us to give voluntarily, not that we were compelled by the point of a government entity to give to others.
Okay, let me take the last part first. Jesus was probably the premier socialist of them all. If you follow the writings of Jesus Christ, and by the way, as far as religion is concerned, you are correct. I am a humanist. Okay, I do believe in a supreme being that I have no knowledge of, because I think it's conceited for anyone to believe that there isn't something that all of this came from. So I believe in a God that I don't understand. Okay. There are some people that say they understand God. I find those people to have done horrendous things in the aggregate. But that said, when it comes to specifically Jesus and what he believes in, follow all the words. Read Matthew, Mark, Jude, all of the Bible. I've read the entire New Testament. You would find Jesus to be a person who promotes what the current evangelicals would call socialism, okay? Because of what he promotes. Now, you are correct in that he didn't say, let the government do that. But I mean, we have a different form of society now. We have a society where the government is we, the people, a representative government, not a government of kings and queens. In other words, when we put Congress out there, Congress represents us. When we put a president there, the president represents us. Unlike in the Jesus times, when you had a king that was ordained by some God that then decided what to do. At that point, the people did not have authority or agency. Today, the people have authority and agency. So my big concern with the right and their disrespect for government is I see that as a disrespect to people, to the average American citizen, because we, the people, is the American citizenry. They are the ones that elect these people to represent them and to provide the policies that will govern them.
Well, the disrespect that you are suggesting we have is a disrespect for those that violate that idea. You know why? That's why we were opposed to COVID lockdowns and everything else, is because we, the people, are the ones that are in charge. And yet that's not been reflected in our current government on either side.
Let me just say, because that's a topic that when I tell you, it really concerns me that we've gotten ideology into those types of debates, right?
You can't have an ideology-free debate at all.
No, but what I'm saying, you can have an idea when science is where science is concerned, and I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer. I'm a scientist. Well, I call myself engineer because the scientists have a deeper level on any particular issue. But I'm an actual engineer. And the truth of the matter is that science, the physical concepts of science is absolute. If I drop a ball, it's going to fall and it's going to follow the accelerative laws, etc. That's a statement of fact. The same applied to COVID. There are certain things under COVID that would work. In other words, if we kept people apart, they wouldn't get the disease because it wouldn't flow. Now, one of the problems that we had is we had a whole lot of people who, it surprised me that didn't quite understand science. And they made the situation with a president that, a very poor president that made the system a lot worse than it should have been. And so when I hear people say we wanted our freedom, it's fine for you to have your freedom and kill yourself if you so choose. But when your freedom infringes on mine, that becomes a problem. And you breathing onto me becomes a problem.
Well, it didn't, but I think, listen, we're going to go, and I'm happy to go all in COVID because the entire narrative that you're talking about right there disappeared. They admitted everything was arbitrary and silly, including the 6-foot rule and everything else that they did. The numbers came out exactly what we thought it was based on the Princess Cruise Line from the very, very beginning, and the people who called it were correct. Almost everybody who pushed back against COVID ended up being correct. You're right that the principles of science are a thing, but our understanding of those things are constantly changing. And the people who used science to say that this stuff was not what it was and purported to be, and they were dead wrong, ended up being right. I think we're getting far off of the idea of
healthcare. Yeah, I tell you what.
But I'm happy to visit that.
Let me tell you this. Okay, let's leave. It seems like you're going to be back here a third time because I want to handle just the COVID debate, because the COVID debate is something that I think we need to get right. And the reason we need to get it right is this is life and death. And we can't play the games of ideology on pandemics. And I think that's what we played. And with all due respect, my dear brother, I hope it's just because of the literature you're reading that some of the statements that you just made is why you made it. But let's honestly leave this.
I had all the doctors on my shows. I had everybody, all over the place.
Great. Let's leave it for the next.
Sure.
Yeah, let's leave it for the next time. But on healthcare now, like I said, I think healthcare is a right, and you don't, and you gave your reasons why. Now that we've I don't think we can come to a consensus on that, because again, you've also included, God in it, which in this case,
sure. We have a foundational disagreement. We're
right. Exactly. We can't solve that. But let's go ahead and do this now. What is your solution to healthcare, as far as paying for healthcare, et cetera?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've had online a couple of exchanges with people that largely share what I believe your view to be, and we can delve more into that. But one of the things that they talk against is the insurance carriers, of course, right?
Right.
And I would largely agree. I agree that our system is broken. What I find interesting is that over and over again, the talking point that they used was the insurance is the middleman, and yet they want to take the insurance out and they would have put in another middleman deciding what you need between you and your doctor, which then ends up being the government. Mm-hmm. On the collectivist side, the government is the answer for everything. I do not believe that's the case fundamentally and foundationally. In fact, I believe that the government has been the problem, and it's been the problem in healthcare since the very beginning when it interfered with employers and the wages that employers were allowed to pay. And it used insurance as, an additional way for people to attract and retain employees. And we're going back to, our World Wars time when it became attached to your employment. That was government interference from the beginning that put us on the track. We had the best healthcare system worldwide at the time. We had direct relationships largely with our doctors. Remember the neighborhood doctor with the doctor's bag visiting people. We had a very robust hospital system that included a voluntary social safety net. That's how the Catholic charities, the Catholic hospitals, many of them were religious institutions that came in and cared for people's health. We had the most progress of any nation in the world when it came to handling diseases and everything else. And government interference took that and did a big left turn. The other foundational issue that we have is we are fundamentally one of the most prosperous and yet unhealthy nations on the planet because of the systematic poisoning of our population for profit.
Wow. I mean, first of all, let's start with the last statement that you made. We're in 100% agreement. By the subsidies we give to the corn industry to create these sugars, by creating a corn-based economy, which means that even the beef that you eat has the DNA of corn in it. I mean, there's so much that you said right in your last statement about our corporations poisoning the American people. However, when it comes to the government involvement in healthcare, I think you need to reconsider some of your statements. Specifically, unions and corporations made a deal. The corporations never wanted to pay high wages, so they leveraged that with health insurance, which I think was a fraud. Okay, which was a fraud by both the labor unions and the corporations sanctioned by the government. So there we can be in agreement. Now let's get to the gist of the matter. The statement that we had the best healthcare system, we had the best healthcare system because we came out with the most solutions to drugs, the most solutions to surgeries, etc. Higher tech. Of course, France and Italy and these other countries also had some. South Africa also had some very good things that they brought into existence. But let's be clear here. Just about every single drug created in America, you and I, through our tax dollars paid to public universities, funded them. After they were funded, the capitalists came into the schools, paid the schools for patents, either taking the patents or patent rights, and then socked us with heavy bills and claimed that these bills were very high. The price of these drugs were very high for innovation because it handles innovation, when the reality is what the biggest expenses for drug companies are: advertising, bonuses, and kickbacks to the shareholders, because again, it's a for-profit system after the public sector developed the drugs. When it comes to actual paying the bill for healthcare, there was a time when the private sector would refuse to insure or make it extraordinarily expensive to insure older folks. The government decided at 65, we will start ensuring the American citizenry. After all of that is placed into effect and it works just fine, the private sector comes in, bribes the government, we the people, and we've accepted it and created something called Medicare Advantage, privatized healthcare that was not successful before the government entered the fray, and now gets $12,000 per person who goes ahead and invests in Medicare Advantage. When it comes to basic insurance, before Obamacare, and by the way, I'm not a fan of Obamacare. It's just a stopgap measure as I'm concerned. Obamacare,
it was designed to fail, but let's go.
Well, when it comes to Obamacare, it turns out that the insurance companies had to make 18% profit instead, 18% expenses instead of the 25 to 30% they were used to. And they found all kinds of mechanisms to make that 18% even more profitable than the 30% that they made previous to Obamacare. So all in all together, the failure of our healthcare system has much to do with the drugs that we've allowed them to steal from our own, that what we've created, from a healthcare insurance system that's nothing more than a profiteering thing to make a few parasites very wealthy, and a system that proves that if you have to have healthcare, you just simply cannot have it in the for-profit system, because again, one of the expenses then becomes profit.
Yeah. So you think profit's evil?
No. Well, let me just answer that before you make your comment.
And you're right. That was unfair to say it that way. But go ahead.
Yeah, I believe in profit. I explained to you in the last session that we had in the bifurcated economy. Free enterprise at the top, then the strands of capitalism, a democratic socialism, and the others that fall under that. So a bifurcated economy.
Yeah, and I think that's nearly reasonable. And I want the audience to pay attention to something I think is important. So you and I have both agreed on the problem.
Yes.
Okay. And I think that is going to be the case with almost everything. We'll discover some things that we do not, that we won't each define as a problem, but I think that's important. So let's imagine, first a world where we are able to get our health on track. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I'm actually quite enthusiastic about RFK Jr. and the MAGA movement, because there are things that fundamentally we do here. I mean, I know that you like some of the socialist countries and you like Europe and model. Would you have an issue with us eliminating some of the poisons that are allowed in our system that are not in Europe, that they have strict rules?
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you on that, brother. Okay. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I figured. That is where a single payer system and we can talk. And by the way, I mean, for the audience and people who can, look me up here, I have been in the insurance business as an insurance executive for many years. So I understand, I've been the middleman. I've been a broker for many years in this, and I have, spoken on this. I've, spent time railing against our system. I've recognized how broken it is and how wicked it is, and I hate it. I detest it. And it has been something that I created products that would have helped us to get out, that were proper insurance products, because we do not have, just fundamentally, and I think this is important for people to understand, by definition, we do not have medical insurance here in this country. What we have is health assistance plans. It's called medical insurance because, it can be regulated. We have existing insurance laws that, exist at each state. And we have a, whole set of laws that enrich people and insurance carriers. You talked about ACA. I agree 100% that what they did, and I knew it at the time, and I called it at the time quite publicly, this will make the prices go up even more exponentially than they have. And, there's charts and all kinds of data that I'm sure you and I would both look at and agree on. They made it worse. I had products that would have been free market solutions to this, that would have brought down the cost. I modeled it out. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars doing it. Under ACA, it was illegal for me to sell and illegal for you to buy it from me. Okay, because of the government interference and because of what the insurance carriers did to protect themselves. If we were to institute, which does not work like people suggest it works, a single payer health system here, it will be worse than the system we have, number one. Number two, it will fail more rapidly and we will get worse outcomes simply because we are not a healthy population. And unless we get all the poisons and things like that, it is dead upon arrival.
Let me ask you a question, because that's a profound statement, one that I completely disagree with, and let me tell you why. You're correct that we are an unhealthy nation, and I think you're saying if it's a single payer system, because we're an unhealthy nation, that our prices will be through exponentially higher, because everybody would then have access to healthcare, which will break the system. Which, if I look at the converse to that, not the converse, but to the parallel to that, what you're saying is the system right now that lets those unhealthy people die is what we're all about, because the only way those unhealthy people don't cost us more in the current system is that they don't live long enough to cost us money. Am I understanding you correctly?
Well,
I think that's what you're saying.
I reject the premise of what you're saying there.
Okay.
But let me be very clear. There is a fantasy that is imagined by the people that promote the idea of a government solution here, that the government is going to be more merciful in the adjudication of claims and the distribution of healthcare than the insurance carriers will be.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
And the government will ration more and will delay and defer more care than the insurance carriers do. And I think the insurance carriers are terrible.
I think that is a statement that I think you simply can't make blank that way, because let's first of all, the experience around the world, I'm not just talking Europe, I'm saying around the world, is different. The second thing is, I think for all practical purposes, you're asking us to forget math. And the math is that in a healthcare system, a public good, profit becomes an expense, because do remember the amount of millions that must go to executives, duplicate advertising, databases, shareholder value. All of that is monies that's collected in premiums that's not paid out in healthcare, but just fattening up the pocket of a parasite. However, even if what you're saying is somewhat true, what you're saying is that under that scenario, the government would still have about a 30% more monies to spend on healthcare than with the for-profit health system, just because in the for-profit health system, when you add all the numbers up, the amount of money that goes to profit relative to the amount of payout is huge. It is huge. And I think you have to, for the amount of waste that would have to exist in the government program, where there's no payment to shareholders, there are no payments to duplicate payments of advertising. Hell, you don't even need advertising and all these other things. It makes it impossible to see how any for-profit system can be more efficient than a single-payer system, whether run by a government or a nonprofit.
Yeah, so there's really no such thing as nonprofit. Not for profit entities. I contribute to many, run a couple myself. Not for profit just doesn't mean what people think it means, and I think you probably understand that.
Well, I want to correct that.
Everybody's getting paid. Everybody's making.
No, I want to correct that.
Sure.
Because here's this. I don't mind having a private insurance company that only pays the executives that do something, pay the people that handle it, and also pays the, but that doesn't have shareholders, etc. That's a nonprofit. But here's the kicker.
But you understand, Blue Shield is a not-for-profit healthcare.
It's a fraud.
Kaiser
but yes, I
is
get
a not-for-profit healthcare.
I get it. Right. No, you're right. I mean, Bryce, you're right. Okay. These things are facades of nonprofits. Okay. And that's why I believe in the government single payer. And let me qualify this a bit better. Because with the government single payer, there's not only the expenses of the insurance companies that save. I don't know when last you've been to a doctor's office, but doctors' offices now have to have people employed to handle the different the scores of different policies. Some of them from the same insurance companies that they have to navigate in order to give care. There are now people hired by all these external sources to satisfy the rules of the insurance companies. I mean, it's capitalism is said to be the efficient relocation of the efficient allocation of resources. In healthcare, capitalism has shown to be a failure.
Okay, so first, we do not have proper free markets here in this country. Okay, and I think that this is a point in which you and I will probably disagree. Mm-hmm. You are pointing at a perfect system of what you're calling democratic socialism is the answer, that is free of fraud, waste, and abuse, and going to be more efficient. You're pointing at that, and then you're comparing capitalism, which has been corrupted by excessive government regulation. I'll give an example. ACA took, you talked about admin. It took what was originally about 18,000 codes, insurance codes, right? For every procedure, there was about 18,000 that they paid on. It's now up to more than 250,000 codes right after Obamacare got put in. Okay. That
I'm taking your word at face value. Okay.
I mean, people can verify this. Look, I'm the only guy that read all 1,900 pages of ACA when it came out, and I read it in a panic because it was going to affect my business and wanted to understand what was going on. It exasperated all the things that you're talking about, and yet that was supposed to save us. That was a government intervention.
Let me tell you why in fact it also saved me as an independent, as a business owner, etc. It's the only reason I couldn't get rejected after having a wife with lupus, etc., etc. So the ACA had things like women had to be given insurance at the same rate. It also had things like you had pre-existing conditions could not be used to not give you insurance. There's a whole plethora of things that the ACA gave. Now I have to be 100% in agreement. Most of us who were supporting the ACA didn't support the ACA in the form that it is in. We actually wanted the public option, which if you look at some of the articles I wrote at Daily Kos, the public option would have ultimately converted the ACA into Medicare for all. In fact, it was tanked by a Democrat, not a Republican. It was tanked by a Democrat. Right. So, I mean, I am very honest in my assessment of things. All our problems are not due to Republicans. All our problems are not due to right wingers. All our problems are due to neoliberal Republicans and Democrats. And believe it or not, and this is going to scare a lot of people when I say this, that is where some of the right wing MAGA and the left wing Democratic Socialists, believe it or not, and I had a conversation that I'm going to bring to air pretty soon, believe it or not, had some common ground. And it freaked me to hell out.
Well, no, I mean, look, that's what I'm saying. I think we identify the same problems. But look, I predicted that ACA, was designed to fail, and it was. I believe that. I predicted that it would cause the costs to go way up. There's a great exaggeration, and we don't need to go into this, but on the pre-existing conditions problem, they propped that as a straw man up because there was all kinds of avenues. One thing that you said to get care. All right. One thing that you said there, I think needs to be really understood. Okay. Why did we charge women more?
Because women have things like they have babies and they have other problems that men don't have.
They consume more care and they are more expensive.
And let me stop you there. Wait, I need to stop you there because here's the thing. How much does it charge you to mail a letter to Alaska? The same amount it charges you to mail it to the main town that you're in, right?
Sure. And our postal service has been bankrupt, and it's never been.
No, the postal service is not bankrupt. No, it has never been bankrupt. But that's not the subject today. We'll talk about that another day. The postal service is one of the most efficient carriers, bar none. But here, and it's a mathematical certainty. But here's the thing, Bryce. Here's the thing with women. Women are our mothers. Women are the one tasked with carrying our kids, things that men don't have to do. All right. So because women are naturally our carriers and do the things that we don't have to do, to go ahead for, and it's only a man who would come out and say, well, you know what, if I do the actual numbers, the women cost us more than men, so women should pay more. Hell no. Women cost us more because as a society who keeps our kids and all that kind of stuff, they do more. So we have to be, there is a reason why. So I categorically disagree with that characterization that women cost us more. They may cost us more on healthcare, but on what they bring to the table is a hell of a lot more. That being fair with healthcare shouldn't be a problem.
Well, listen, you're talking to a traditional man here who cares for his wife and his 3 daughters and pays for all those things.
I don't disagree with that at all. Let me tell the audience, this is a good man. Okay. He just has some male problems sometimes.
No. I mean, but what you're saying is flies in the face of good insurance principle. And yes, we don't even have. I already said to you, we do not have insurance. Let me finish this point.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. My bad.
Bookmark yours. No, all good. We need to underwrite insurance, or else we do not have insurance.
Right.
Okay. In my world, in my solution, what we would have is people. And first, let me share an important statistic that I can be fact checked on. 75% of all claims are lifestyle-based chronic conditions.
I don't disagree.
Now, let's imagine if we addressed those by people sharing in the risk more so based on their health conditions that are lifestyle-based chronic conditions that means that there is individual responsibility that can be taken. And I do believe that this is a fundamental principle, that on your side, there is a devaluing of the individual responsibility that people must take. Okay. And we're putting it all on the collective rather than on the individual. And what I'm saying is it needs to be weighted towards the individual, and then the collective steps in when the individual can't handle things, when the problem is too big for them. Okay. But we have to have some form of individual responsibility. People are digging their graves with their forks.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some accountability there. There has to be accountability for if I choose to smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I cost more to a system. That is a decision that I make, right? There has to be some individual penalties that I pay. Okay. If you were to make us healthier, think about what that chunk is. Let's say we were 20, 30% healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we cleaned up the admin side. Let's say we get rid of advertising. There should be no reason why pharmaceutical companies should advertise here in the United States. Most people on my side who are true conservatives would agree, think that that's a corrupted system right there. We start to pull some of those things, we will have a dramatic effect on just their costs, even if we don't touch anything else.
Wow. I can't disagree what you just said, Bryce. I mean, because I would like there to be that we had a way in which we could have people do the right thing as far as their eating, how they eat, what they eat, what vices they have, whether it be liquor. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I live a very clean life. But I mean, my wife drinks, not much, but she drinks. But my thing is this: I agree with you there. But
so she's the fun one. Is that what we're saying? No.
But no. But let me tell you what I think. You just defined something called regulations. All right. That's what you just did. And what you find is, and I notice this with a lot of folks on the right, a lot of things you would like regulated. You just don't like some of the things that I would like regulated. And I am of the type that if a regulation makes sense, then let's do it. Let me give an example. If we were to stay with private insurance company, which I hope to God we don't, but if we were to stay with private insurance company, having a regulation that authorizes insurance companies to do what you just said, because we have to be careful to when insurance rule become prejudicial. In other words, when it's not done for the better good, but for other reasons. So
I thought you were a science guy.
I am a science guy.
All right. Well, if you're a science guy, then underwriting is mathematic principles, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, here's but let me give you the prescription because we're going to run out of time.
Yeah, we are.
You and I need a direct relationship with our providers. So your doctor and my doctor, we should go in there and we should pay our doctor's bill. They would make a lot more money. Mm-hmm. They would have more efficient offices.
Yes.
A general practitioner right now, you have less and less of those guys graduating because it's gotten so painful for them to even have an existence.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. We need a direct relationship with them. There's a clinic here in town called Appleton Clinics, started in Colorado. My buddy owns it. They are a direct primary care model. They do not deal with the insurance carriers, and it's a couple $100 a month for you and your family to go access care. You get more time with the doctors. The doctors see, a few patients a day compared to the average of 40 patients a day. Mm-hmm. Those doctors make in the good mid six figures. It's a subscription model, and it takes care of 90% of your family's care.
I am with you right there.
Okay. That's the first layer of what we need. And those folks are, taken care of with the idea of keeping them healthy, longevity, good practices, right? Then you have a layer on top of that, which is right now illegal, but it should not be, is true catastrophic care. Mm-hmm. And under my model, because there's always a place for insurance. Insurance is an amazing financial model that predates health insurance and all the BS and everything that we've had. But you then have catastrophic care. You get hit by a bus, you get struck by dread illness, unfortunate circumstances. And then you have a society that has a safety net for people that were, born with dread diseases that can't go through regular channels. I think what you guys think about the conservative model is that it is bereft of any government whatsoever. When what we are saying is have true free markets, not the bastardization that we have here that we're calling capitalism. Let's have true free markets, and let's have an element of government involvement. It's not regulation when you have the free market making decisions for itself. It is regulation when you have the government making decisions for
Let me tell you what I can live with. And I love that idea of the subscription model healthcare. I adore that idea. In fact, I think there's a MAGA guy in our chat that talks about something similar. And the way you explained that, I believe I love the bottom tier. The bottom tier is perfect. Okay. Now, the tier that I wouldn't want is that tier above that bottom layer. In other words, I don't see any reason to give for profits that layer. I think that layer with the relationship between you and your doctor, primary health care, etc., perfect. No problem. And above that, where things start to get catastrophic out of hand, we don't need a sector that's going to take some of the monies out of the system in the middle. I will get rid of that private sector insurance portion, rid ourselves of that, and have, if you want private insurance for that little that primary care 90% that you talk about, where personal responsibility come into play with what you're going to be charged for that primary care. I see that makes a lot of sense, Bryce. But above that, I don't want the private sector involved because at that point it becomes predatory. But look, we're running out of time, and I think we came to some agreement on healthcare a bit, some at the lower level.
Yeah, well, I'll leave you with this last thought. What you're suggesting there will be a unmerciful and terrible system that we see when you said that people are satisfied around the rest of the world. Okay. Remember Italy during COVID and how badly it fell apart?
Yes. I do.
They were asked if they liked their healthcare back prior to that.
They would hate it.
No, they rated their healthcare system, their single payer health system there. They rated it extremely high. Yeah, it's pretty good. These are people that don't go to the doctor a lot. They don't consume much healthcare. They have a fairly decent diet. They're not, they're not the caricature of fat Italians that we see. These are people that walk, that live fairly.
They're healthier, yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you ask in countries like that, do they like their healthcare? You're going to get a higher level of satisfaction than you're going to get here, right? But yet in Canada and Britain and all these places, good luck going and getting a knee replacement, right? Good luck getting elective surgeries that aren't emergency surgeries.
Right.
Includes all kinds of things that are critical.
Bryce, I am with you, brother. But let me tell you something, okay? In none of these countries will you go bankrupt because of healthcare. And waiting for a knee surgery or waiting for a back surgery.
That's a manipulated statistic here, though.
No, Bryce. I've gone through this. I've gone through this with several other right wingers that have came up with some answers. So we don't need to go there. But let me just say here an important thing. Because again, I'm not looking at you as some bad guy that wants bad things to happen. I'm looking at you as somebody with a philosophical difference, which is what I see as the case. But here's the deal.
We're hanging out.
That's why we hang. Like I said, I can have coffee with folks without and I even convince you of a few things if I sit with you long enough. But but here's the thing. I want to close this up now. I don't have enough time to say what I want to say. What I want to give you is the last word, and then I'll close out.
Listen, I just think that the government is not the solution. I think that the state is not the answer to as many things as you think. I think it's ingenuity, creativity, unburdened by government that allows us to do these things. I think all the stuff that you're railing against in the capitalist world is corruption that has been enshrined by government and its puppets.
Okay, I disagree. I believe in innovation as well. In fact, I had still to some extent, my software company that did innovate and made money from innovation. But I do believe in certain areas in our economy, we do need to have strong and robust government involvement. But to have good government involvement means we have an educated people who are able to vote their interests. And I think one of the problems that we have is people are not sufficiently educated in what their government is doing and what their government is supposed to be. It will always be we the people. And if we remember it's we the people, together, all of us, whether you're on the left or the right, we can come together and have solutions. Brother Bryce Eddy, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. We'll come back and talk COVID-19.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for having me.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.